What's up there, people? It's Clormo with another Logic Pro X tutorial. I'm going to be talking today about the Alchemy filter types on the main filter section. If you're going to notice right away that the list of filters, like I showed in the previous video, is essentially the same list or the same filter designs that are available at the source level. It's just that at this point, I think it's better if I give an overview on all of them. There are many. I think I know how to present it to you in a way that you at least have a good grasp of them and lose any doubts or fear that you can go ahead and experiment with them. That's the real purpose of the video, as opposed to just explaining exactly what you can do with all of them, because I think that will take really part of that sound design workshop that I want to do. Those videos are going to be better to show exactly what each of them do and what you can achieve with them. Okay, so with that out of the way, 2 notes. The web page is still down. I still haven't gotten time to put into it. I will try my best to try to see if I can get it out tomorrow, but as of this video, as I have said in my other Spanish and English videos this weekend, I don't think I will make it, and it will probably be done by next weekend for sure. That would be a more realistic date, but I'll try. And other than that, then if this is the first video that you're seeing from my series or any video that I've done, then if you like it, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment on it, suggest stuff. All my social media and other contacts are at the bottom graphic of this video, and you can contact me there for anything that you would like. And without further ado, let me go right into Logic Pro X. Talking about this area still, the filters. It's just that today I want to go through this massive list of stuff. Like I said, if I go to a sub page, the filters, which I spoke about on a few videos ago, this is the exact same list. But on that video, I didn't even spend any time saying any of them, what they were, or even giving an idea, because I thought that it was better to do it here. We're gonna get here eventually, and we have. So let's just talk about them here. First things first, and I just want to give a little bit of a background and recap in the same statement. Alchemy has about 15 multi-mode filter modules, and they can be used, as I said, at the source level or at the main level, and they can be used to affect each voice independently. If you are using them at the source, if you're using at the main stage like we are seeing now, you're affecting the combination of the 4 sources. So keep that in mind, because if as you start experimenting, you may just want to filter a very specific portion of your sources, and that would be better to do at the source level. If you want to affect the complete signal, then do it at the main level. So I just wanted to make that distinction. There are 2 main filters that we have been dealing with here. I showed them in the last video, and then there are 4 sets of 3 source filters. So again, it's 3 different filters that you can add at the source level times 4, and then on the effects rack down here, there's also a filter module that you can use and further filter your sound, but that will come later. So let's go to this. It's a big list, and I was a little bit intimidated at first at doing this video, I'm gonna be honest, but then I realized it's really simple. You'll see I will spend probably more time here, and even these can be grouped and explained in groups. So let's start here. LP, BP, HP. You have the same amount and the same, pretty much the same amount, except for BP. You will understand why. Pretty much the same types or designs of filters. The LP stands for low pass, BP stands for band pass, and HP stands for high pass. So right away, if you have been following my videos or you have any knowledge of equalization, it's very simple to understand what these will achieve. Like a low pass is gonna let low frequencies pass through your design or your filter design. Band pass is gonna do something a little bit different in that a portion of the signal will be occupying or surrounding a cutoff frequency, and then there are roll-off points or sections where signals can go through. So it's not a full low or high pass, and then a high pass will just eliminate a whole portion of low frequencies and let high frequencies go by. So that's what these do. As far as combinations goes, to explain them, this goes like this. So anything that has a 2, any filter that has a 2 on them means that it's a 2-pole filter. And to be very honest with you, I'm not quite sure what that means. And the reason is because the effects are so tied to what sources you have and what you have filtered at the source level that it really takes you to experiment to see exactly what you can get out of them. 4 would be 4 poles, and then 10 would be 10 poles. That's essentially the same for all 3 different bandpass type of filters. Now, you have these SBF, which are state variable filters. You have your XP, MG, and K20. These are analog modeled filters. So they're analog filters. They have different effects, again tied to whatever you have on your sources and the different settings. They're gonna give you different results, and I really cannot go into explaining all of them. It's not only because I do not dominate that, because it's just such not a guess game. I don't want to say a guess game, but it's really takes experimenting and doing it yourself to really get a feeling for that. And when I get to that more sound designing type of tutorials, then I can spend more time. You can see how many videos I can do all of these guys alone. I mean, not to mention all the other synths and stuff. This BQ, it's the default filter that you have at the source and the main level. And for those of you that have been paying attention on my other videos, this is just your typical EQ. So this would be a filter that mimics more an EQ. It's just going to have a particular set of bands where you can edit their bandwidth. That Q is the bandwidth. If you go into the channel EQ, for example, you can see that graphically. So you probably want to start with something like this when you are experimenting, because it won't give you as much as drastic changes. Anyway, then you have the B. And B, this is just filters that are designed to saturate heavily your resonance and your drive settings. So these are going to give you probably more extreme alterations of the sound, and you might want to stay away from them when you're starting, especially if you're bringing whole loops of samples and that type of thing. You don't want to distort them right out of the box too much. You probably won't even get a good grasp of what's happening. But anyway, so that's for those. I'm gonna go down here in a second. I just wanted to go again and say that for all of these guys, right, in these 3 groups, these parameters or knobs do not change. You're gonna get exactly the same. You're gonna get a cutoff, a resonance, and then the drive button is gonna be on whatever of these filters it's allowed to be overdriven. And I showed last time, like for example, the XP is allowed to be overdriven, and you can also go left and right and see down the list which ones are allowed to be overdriven and which ones aren't, which is gonna be pretty much all of them except your typical BQ. So there you go. I pretty much knocked all of this down in record time, I want to say. So let's move down here to Bit Crusher, Tube, and I think Mac. So those guys, those filters, I can group them by saying that they're distortion type filters. I guess that's pretty self-explanatory. They're just going to distort your signal at the main level. But just to give you an idea what they do, Tube is a classic tube distortion filter, one of the very first filters that was, I guess, ever designed. Mac would be a metallic sounding distortion, and your Bit Crusher is a harsher sounding digital effect. If you have followed my previous videos, you know the Bit Crusher is going to give you a lot of distortion, and that could be good for whatever purpose you want to use it. So it's just back here. List have these three guys which are comb filters. Now let me see if I can explain this in a way that you understand it, because I myself don't fully understand comb filters yet. I'm gonna be honest with you. Comb filters will mix an original signal and make a lot of copies of it on that signal, and those copies are either gonna be delayed by a very short time interval, or they could be delayed forward, like it could be backwards or forwards, and at some frequencies that's going to create phase cancellations, and at other frequencies it's going to reinforce your sound, right? Because if you're at a frequency that's ahead in time, it's probably going to the phase cancellation. If they're a little bit behind in time, it's going to create that reinforcement effect. Now there are three different ones here, as you can see right from the list, and you have the comb POS, which it's a positive comb. It's going to use positive feedback on delay. So negative will be the opposite of that. It's going to use negative feedback, and it's going to produce less extreme effects. They're going to have more of a hollow quality to them. Those two, the negative and positive, are the less powerful comb filters that you have in Alchemy or Logic for that matter, and they might be, in my opinion, the ones that you want to go to start experimenting with comb filters. They're more gradual, they have less extreme effects, as I just said. Comb PM, it will use a bipolar feedback on the delay. So the resonance control is bipolar. It's going to let you go freely from negative, which will sound hollow, to positive, which will sound more bright. So this will create more extreme changes in resonance, and it's going to decrease it rather quickly if you are not careful with the knobs, and that's just going to give you harsher sound. So again, I suggest that you probably want to go with these. I just want to go back 1 second to Bit Crusher just to show that your knobs will change, and essentially what you have is just different versions of what of the different knobs that you had in the low pass filter. For example, with Bit Crusher you have amount, so that's just gonna set the amount of the Bit Crusher of the level, right? The mix is gonna let you do same as the other mix knob. That's gonna let you mix the clean signal and the distorted signal. When you have a zero value, you're just gonna get the the clean signal. If you have 50, you have a mix of the two. You have 100, you only have the completely distorted signal. And then the pre-gain is just that. A pre-gain is going to boost your input gain. That's the same for tube and Mac. You have the same thing. Now going back to the comp filters, then those change again. This guy is called frequency, but that's really should be called cutoff, because that's what you're doing. You're just setting the cutoff frequency. F-back is just gonna control the amount of feedback from the comb. From that, it's like a design, right? It's a circuit. And damp is gonna dampen or soften the frequency peaks. The frequency peaks in the comb filter spectrum. This is gonna help you soften. Like if you go with comp PM and then you are getting like harsh sounds or a lot of distortion or whatever, you can try to use this knob here to dampen your result, and you know, try to get something out of it. Then compressor, I guess also FM, we can group them, and there are tools that are gonna, these filters are gonna let you have different knobs, but all they do is just give you more creative options at the filter stage of the signal path. Now this FM is not the same as the FM synth. It's not a dedicated FM synth. This is just more like working with FM on analog mode. So you should be getting more organic, distorted sounds as opposed to, so it's more like a software type of FM, if you can understand it, because again, it's all software, right? It's inside Logic, but the synth, it treats it more like a hardware type of FM. So it has more dedicated. But anyway, if you go to compressor, your knobs change to threshold. It's just a threshold level. So signals above that threshold level are gonna be reduced. They're gonna be compressed. Your ratio is your compressor ratio. So it's just a ratio of signal reduction when the threshold is exceeded, same as any other compressor. And the gain is just gonna set the gain that's gonna be applied to compensate for your compression. FM, your knobs change to frequency, so that's gonna just set the oscillator frequency. Mod is gonna set the degree to which the modulator can modulate the frequency. So your modulator in this case is your source audio. In this case, it's gonna be whatever you have on the four sources here. And then you also have another feedback knob right there. Let's see. Formant. Notch and peaking. It can also be grouped, I think. And the reason is because a formant, I have mentioned this before, like the formants are designed to mimic a fixed resonance, like those that you can produce from a hollow body guitar or your vocal cavity, your vocal cords. A notch filter is going to cut a narrow band around a resonant frequency, and the rest of the signal is going to be affected very little. Peaking is a filter that's going to boost a narrow band around a resonant frequency, similar to what the notch filter does. So they're kind of the same, it's just that the different knobs are going to change just a little bit. For formant, you have a cutoff frequency and you have an amount of formant, or the width of the band. Like if you go to the eBuck 20 video, you're going to see that the amount of your formants pretty much affect the bandwidth. If I go to notch, have the same thing. So they're exactly the same knobs, but then the difference here on peaking is that there's a gain, and this BW is just the bandwidth. So instead of setting the bandwidth with your amount, which was the knob that the Foreman and Notch filters had, you actually set it here. And then gain is just a gain control, you know, so it's gonna control the amount of boost that you give to that signal using this filter. And let me see which ones am I missing here. And then from here, yeah, ring mod is one that I'm missing. So ring mod is ring modulation. And let me see if I can explain this in simpler words. It's like ring modulation, it's a process in which you have a modulator and a normal signal, you know, a carrier signal. Both of those are going to be multiplied when you use ring modulation. So each frequency component of the modulator is going to interact with each frequency component of the carrier, and it's going to create two sidebands. You have a sum and a difference. Carrier would be sum, difference would be modulator. When a filter is set to ring mod type, the signal that's entering the filter will act as the modulator, and then the carrier is the supplied internally by the filter. Here, what you get is just, again, a frequency. So it's gonna create a cutoff or a carrier frequency. The mix is gonna apply the constant offset of the carrier signal. So when you have 0%, the carrier wave varies between -1 and +1. So this is like the classic ring modulation. At 100%, then your wave is going to vary from 0 or between 0 and 1. So this is more like amplitude modulation. Then the weird knob, which is funny, is going to control your carrier waveform. And this is just like when it's at 0, it's going to be a pure sine wave. And as you go from 0 to higher settings, you're going to produce more sidebands, and you're gonna have noisier timbres to your sound. And produce, you know, change your sound in that way. So let me just try a few of them just for all time's sake. And I started here. Take a listen. Let me set my cutoff frequency higher. You can actually modulate and morph that. We go now to a just go right some of these guys here. Let me go to one of these guys, high pass. Let's go to Big Crusher, which is more distortion. It's a pretty cool effect. Let's go to Comp PM, hopefully. Yeah, it's just right away, it's just clipping all over. And that's it's kind of bad because it doesn't tell you, like, when you hover over any of this, like just a little explanation of what they could do, or just to be careful, you know. But anyway, let's try FM blast. And actually I want to try the notch as well. So these are subtle, you know, a little bit more subtle. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope that at least, again, I fulfilled the purpose that I expressed in the beginning of the video, which was helping you ease your fears about using filters and get you into experimenting right away. Anyways, in the next video, I'm gonna go into the master voice section. That should be probably a quicker video than the last few from this weekend, but anyways, I'll see you in that video. So with that, we're done with this tutorial, and again, thanks to all of you that are supporting on every platform that I'm releasing my work on, for sharing and doing all that stuff and helping me spread the word and get more eyes on my work. See you in the next video. Peace out, YouTube.